This conference will now be recorded.
So hi everyone, I welcome you all into the session number 3 of Dell Boomi training. Okay, in the last session we basically talked about what is IPaaS, right? What does IPaaS stand for?
Integration platform as a service.
Very nice. It stands for Integration Platform as a Service, and that is a full form of it, right? But what are the qualities or what are the traits of an integration platform as a service? When can we consider any platform as an IPaaS?
I mean, any application that we can build and deploy and manage.
Very nice. Where we can build the integration, we can deploy the integrations, and where we can manage the integrations, right? So these are the three important things which needs to happen over the cloud, most importantly. And we don't need to do any kind of maintenance. We don't need to do any kind of patching and all that, those activities, any kind of installation. Everything is taken care by a Dell Boomi platform, right? And what we need to do is uh, we just need to have an internet connection. We need to have some login credentials, and then we can get started. Anyhow, so what is that link which is required to basically launch the Dell Boomi platform?
Platform.boomi.com.
Very nice. It is https platform.boomi.com. And what is that platform called as?
Atomsphere.
Very nice. That is called as Boomi Atomsphere platform, right? So now what are the other offerings we have in the market apart from the IPaaS, which helps us to achieve the integrations? We have got some
MuleSoft.
ESBs.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, first let's understand what are the different other methodologies, and then we can talk about the product, right? We have got ESBs, we have got message brokers, we have got integration suites, right? Now, what is the biggest disadvantage of all these products over IPaaS?
They are on-premise integration platform.
Very nice. Their architecture was designed to support on-prem integration. Now, the question is, an interviewer might ask you, can these all ESBs and all, can these be used to do cloud integrations? Answer is yes, we might be able to do cloud integrations, but then these are not scalable, right? And another important thing is these will require maintenance. Yes or no? These will require constant maintenance, because of which organizations have started moving to the cloud, right? So now we have to understand what are the other competitors we have with Dell Boomi, which are falling in this IPaaS range, but these are also in demand and are competitor to Dell Boomi.
MuleSoft.
MuleSoft,
MuleSoft.
we have got Jitterbit, we have got SnapLogic. Yeah, there are many. There are many others. There's Workato, and there are many. Any examples of ESB you can recall?
TIBCO EMS we have, right?
Oracle Bus. IBM
Yeah,
integration bus.
Integration bus.
we have got methods. We have got Oracle Service Bus. There are many. Okay, there are numerous. And in Message Broker, we have got, again, in IBM has offerings in all these uh, genre. We have IBM Integration Bus. Okay, for this we have got Oracle Source Suite. Right, so these are the different offerings we have, and yesterday we understood, right, why these all initiatives towards moving IPaaS are being adopted by the enterprises, because organizations have started moving towards cloud, and when their core applications are moving to cloud, they want a model, right, or they want a integration model which is scalable, right, where they need to do least maintenance, right, and which has the cloud native architecture, right? And the cloud native architecture is there with this all IPaaS offerings, So whatever capabilities ESB brings in, right? Guys, I will request everyone to be on mute. There is a constant back. Sai Manikanta, can you put yourself on mute? All right. So what I'm trying to say is, again, the interviewers might try to confuse, like, is ESB completely different from IPaaS? So when we talk about the offerings, right? So with ESBs or with any integration platform, the most important thing. Hey guys, I don't know who is not on mute. Hey Sai Manikanta, is there any problem to put yourself on
No,
mute?
no, no, sir. It is automatic and sorry, sorry.
Okay, please take care of it. Actually, this is completely, disturbing the session. All right. So what I was saying is, when we talk about any integration platform, you also have to understand what are the important factors which you need to consider when you talk about any integration platform, right? So let's say you have 5 different integration platforms. Now your company asks you to decide which is the right integration platform. So all are doing, you cannot go and see, there are more job openings on this particular integration platform, and that's why this is the integration platform which my organization should use, right? So you need to understand what are the traits or what are the qualities based on which you will take a decision. Okay, these are the n number of features which must be there in any integration platform. And then if these are the features, then these, if let's say there are 10 features which I'm looking for, and there are 3 different integration platforms which has got all the 10 features, maybe then I will do the comparison of the cost, right? I will do the comparison of their support. So so uh, he- here is the thing. So first of all, the important thing, very very important thing, is the transformation engine of any integration platform. Okay, the transformation engine of any integration
दरवाजा लगा
platform.
दो प्लीज.
Guys, please make sure you're on mute when you're talking. Okay, this all gets recorded actually. So what I'm saying is the transformation engine of any integration platform is very very important whenever you are making a selection of the integration product, because what happens is, as we have been talking, right, the job of integration platform is to enable the collaboration, right? So let's say there is an application A, and then there is application B, right? So you have to understand, and you can always correlate with the real world examples, right? This application can be this person A, and this application B can be like person B, right? Let's say this application A is written in or is developed in Java, right? Whereas application B is, let's say, somehow written in .NET or maybe any other web technology, or any, or it might be some other uh, technology as well. Now when these two need to talk to each other, they may have their own understanding format, right? So let's say you are talking with a person, right? You are from India and you're talking with a person from, let's say, China. So Chinese people have their own language, Indian people, they will have their own mother tongue, right? Now there has to be some kind of a communication which we want, and that communication cannot happen directly because these two people might have their own native understanding formats. So what we need is, we need a form of a person whom we call as an intermediator. What will that intermediator do? That intermediator will receive the instructions from the person in India. He will understand his language and will convert into a format which is understood by the Chinese person, and other way around. So the same job is done by the integration platform, right? Integration platform is also doing the same job. What it is doing? It is doing the transformation of the data from one format to another, right? So transformation is the most important trait of any integration platform. So what might happen in real time is, here you may get the data in the XML format. Let's say your target application understands the data in JSON format. Okay, I'm just giving one example. There can be many such permutations and combinations. So now when that needs to happen, it cannot happen automatically, right? One thing is, we do it by point to point integration, right? Okay, you guys have to tell me, if we are going to achieve this with the help of point to point integration, who will have the responsibility to convert this XML format which is produced by application A into JSON format. What I'm saying is, if let's say there is no intermediator, who will need to ensure that that transformation is happening?
Source application has to take care.
Absolutely correct. It is the responsibility of the source application to eventually convert the instructions into a format which can be natively understood by application B. But if that is required, then there is a lot of overhead on application A, right? Because tomorrow, let's say it might need to call to an application C, which understands the data in a, let's say, flat file format, right? Or maybe some other format, right? So that becomes a lot of overhead, and that's why we make use of integration platform. So whenever we are choosing an integration platform, we have to always see its transformation capabilities, which is very, very important, right? If it does not have a good transformation engine, it does not offer you good transformation capabilities, then it may not be the right platform for you. Then you have to choose the out of the box connectors, right? What is the job of a connector? Or some people,
Connector job is
yes,
to
somewhere we call it as
join.
adapter sensor.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
we
please go ahead.
have uh, like for our laptop also, right, to charge, right, we put adapter to so that that power comes to that system, so it connects to the electricity. For in the sense same way in IT, it like connecting to that database or FT, that source.
Exactly,
To
very
get
nice.
data,
So it is a component which helps you to plug in with any third party application, right? So now why we need this? Because see, I'm investing some money in an integration platform. So what I would want is my integrations should be faster, my integrations should be secure, my integrations should be scalable. Then what I will do is I will look, let's say my business use cases are that I have to do integration with Salesforce, I have to do integration with SAP, okay, I have to do integration with SuccessFactor. Now, what I would do is, if let's say my business feels that these are the three core applications which will be involved in integration, so I will just go and check that whether the integration platform for which I'm purchasing the licenses, does it offer all these out of the box connectors or not? If it does not offer out of the box connectors, then I will have to rethink, because whether I would want to invest so much of money for any integration platform which is not giving me the capability to establish the connectivity out of the box, right? Then the next thing is, maybe you will see that does it support majority of the commonly used integration patterns. So whenever you're working in integration world, right, so there are some common integration patterns, right? So you will have synchronous communication, asynchronous communication, you will have routing, you will have filtering. So there are 50-60 different integration patterns you have, out of which there are 10 or 12 integration patterns which are very, very common, which are, so we need to see that whether there is a ease of use to implement those integration patterns or not, right? That is another thing I would like to check. Then there is another very, very important thing, that whether it is stateless or stateful. What is the meaning of stateless and stateful? This is very, very important, guys. You have to understand what is the difference between stateless and stateful.
So stateless is whenever the data, for example, website is work means there, if we don't reload, the cache data stays there. That is it automatically changes the data. That is stateless. Stateful, like soap services, they need to be re-triggered and all those things.
All right.
yeah, stateful is like complete state is maintain. It should be maintained in the machine when you host,
I
when
mean,
your runtime is hosted.
so I don't know who gave the first answer. It's correct. Like stateless and stateful may have different meanings depending on the context, right? So stateless typically would mean, when let's say I'm making a first request to a website, right? And if my second request has no dependency on the first request, right? I don't, so whatever came in the first request, if I don't need to store it anywhere. These all are independent requests that will be stateful. When I talk about the integration platforms, how it would mean is, so let's say you're doing some executions, right? When you're executing something, now let's say there was a first order request which came in, that came from a website which was built in, let's say, PHP, and that eventually needs to be integrated with ERP, right? Now when the second request comes in, or third request comes in, or let's say after a day, I want to see which all requests came in. If your integration platform has a capability to store that data internally, then it is considered as a stateful integration platform or stateful integration tool. Okay, whenever any integration platform has the capability to store the metadata and data about all the executions happening across, then it is called as stateful tool, right? So generally when it is stateful, right, whenever you want to maintain the data and all, so there will be an impact on performance, right? Isn't it? So if something is coming to the integration platform, it needs to pass that data into the target system. But before that, what does it do is, whatever has happened throughout the integration platform, it is going to store somewhere in the dehydration store. Okay, so this is again a common jargon we will hear: dehydration store, or some people in some tools we call it as some kind of a persistent store, or some kind of a auditing store. So what I'm trying to tell you is that whenever any request is coming to the integration platform, right, one thing is, it will just take that request, it will go and hit the target system, and it will return your response. But if it is maintaining the details of the complete executions internally, which might be helpful to you at a later stage, right? So let's say you got a ticket, right? Let's say you got a ticket that this order with the number, let's say 10001, was created but has not been delivered. So what you will do is, you will see that whether that order is there in the ERP or not. You do not find that in ERP. So you will go to the integration team and you will say that this particular order was fired from the website. It has not reached to the ERP. Can you check whether this got failed in the integration layer or not? But how can you check whether that failed in the integration layer or not? So there can be different ways, right? If the integration platform is stateful, then using that order ID, I can easily go and check that whether it got failed or not. If it is stateless, right, it is not necessary that if it is stateless we cannot find it out. If it is stateless, maybe I will design my error handling in such a way that I can track all the errors, or I might go and check the logs of the time frame, right? I will ask the team that but at what particular timestamp this order was fired, so that I will go and check the logs of that timestamp, or of timestamp near about that, and see if something got uh, broken in my integration layer. So another important factor is that whether your business needs are more for a stateless tool or a stateful tool, whether you have all the connectors or not, whether you have the right transformation engine or not, whether it supports all the latest security realms or not, right? So these days we talk a lot about OAuth, we talk about JWT, we might have need of SAML, we might have a need of a single sign-on, right? So whether the integration platform you are choosing supports all these features or not, right? So the uh, is it good for APIs or not, right? Does it support all the different types of APIs or not? Because these days APIs have become very, very important. Those people who do not know what is API, API stands for application programming interface, right? So it is an offering which will allow you to connect with a third party, abstracting the underlying complexity, right? So we'll talk in detail about API, but so these are the features which we need to take into consideration before we decide any integration platform. And as an integration guy, right, if you're going for any interview, right, and especially for the senior folks, they might ask you all these questions, that how do you make a choice, right, among the different platforms? And another important factor is licensing cost, right? So licensing cost is very, very important for any enterprise, right? Because any enterprise would like to see the return on investment. We also called as ROI. Okay, these are very, very common words which you will hear once you go at a senior level. And this is the same thing which we are doing in our day-to-day life also, right? If you go and purchase some commodity, right? Or let's say you go and buy some apparels for yourself, or you go and buy a car for yourself, you go and buy anything, so you would see what is the benefit you're getting out of it, right? So a business would also want to do the complete analysis before purchasing a product, that what is the return I'm getting on that investment. If let's say the return is, the product is superb, right, it is giving me hundreds of features, but let's say there are only two features which are useful for my business, I would not want to go and invest in such costly thing, right? I would look for something which is good for my appetite. So that is why it is not mandatory that every customer will buy Dell Boomi or every customer will buy MuleSoft. They have to see what are the use cases they have in hand, which tool can help them to achieve those use cases, which tool will help them to achieve their, let's say, next 3 to 5 years roadmap, which tool will give them the better support, which tool will them give them the reasonable licensing cost. And also, above all, there is one more important thing, which that is that what is the relationship I have with that customer, right? So now let's say in my company I'm using all the products of Oracle, right? So I may have an order management system which is from Oracle. I may have a CRM which is from Oracle. I may have an ERP which is from Oracle. And sometimes people call that this company is an Oracle shop. This company is a Microsoft shop. This company is, let's say, IBM shop, right? So we all call that, right? So those people who work in pre-sales, who go and get the project for the company. So now if a company is having all the products from Oracle, it is evident, or there are very, very high chances that they may go for an integration platform, which is again from Oracle, right? At the same time, there are companies who do not purchase all the products from a single company. They look for best of breed, right? Best of breed means which in which genre, which is the best offering we have in the market. So for example, in the ERP space, we feel SAP is the best, right? uh, in the CRM space, they feel like Salesforce is the best. Again, the definition of the best is subjective to the different people, right? For me, Idli might be the best. For other person, dosa might be the best. So company will not say best blindly. They will do all their analysis, right? And they find SAP is the right fit for them from the ERP standpoint. Salesforce is the right fit for them from the uh, CRM standpoint, right? From the HRMS standpoint, they might feel Workday. There is another very commonly used application, HR, HRMS. What does it stand for? Human Resources Management System, right? So they feel one example of this is Workday. I mean, Workday is used for HRMS and it can use for financial management also. But Workday is a very, very commonly used cloud-based offering these days, which is used for HRMS purpose. So if I feel my products are SAP, HRMS, oh sorry, for HRMS it's Workday, then Salesforce. Then in that case, I'm not dependent on a single vendor, right? I'm already working with multiple vendors. Now I will go and first of all find out my use cases. Then I will see what are the traits I'm looking for, which integration platform is going to cater that, and that's how I'm going to make choice, right? So this is also called as platform evaluation. So these are some of the factors. There can be more factors also. I think there are minimum 25 to 30 different parameters which any organization would want to consider before making a choice for any integration platform, right? So I hope you understand, right? And the reason why I'm telling you all this is you have to broaden your scope. You do not have to restrict yourself to Boomi. You have to think about integration. Boomi is doing fantastic today, right? It might continue doing that for, let's say, 5 years, but what after that? If you start thinking more from integration standpoint, if not Boomi, maybe something XYZ, right? Never confine yourself to a specific tool, right? So that will only happen when you know, right, that these are the n number of traits, right? There are many others, but I've written some of the very, very important ones. So these are the important things you need to look for from any integration platform. And let's say we try to evaluate, we finalize, okay, Boom is the right fit, then we'll go and we'll start our integrations. Any questions so far, guys, from anyone? All right. So now what we'll do is we'll start. Yeah.
One question. Can you explain that dehydration store?
Okay. See, dehydration store. So you have to pick up all these words. Good question, Priyanka. So these kind of jargons are very important. So dehydration store means it is a persistence layer where we can store the data permanently, typically in a secured manner. So this can be a database or a file system, right? Dehydration store means where you can persist or you can store the data permanently. Yeah. So behind the scene, dehydration store in most of the cases will be some database or a file system only. So whenever a request will flow through the integration layer, they will have a mechanism. So to audit the details of that complete execution in a persistence layer, which is also called as a dehydration store. So dehydration store is the jargon which might be used by some of the integration platforms. Some people might call it as an auditing store, or some people might call it as a persistence store. So but that this is the layer, or this is a place where your complete execution details are stored, right? Another jargon which you will hear when you're working in the integration world is orchestration. This, you will hear this word very frequently, and this orchestration word comes from orchestra, right? So you might have seen when there is a orchestra, so there are different musicians, right? There might be a piano player, there might be tabla player, there might be guitar player, and there is a music director, right, who gives them the instructions. So what happens is these just think of some old video, right, where there is a stage performance, there are hundreds of musicians, and these all people are directed by a music director, right, who will make some notations, and he will try to pass on the instructions, right, by moving his hands here and there. And those different musicians will follow the signs being performed by that individual, which is nothing who is nothing but music director, right? So what does, and this orchestration word comes from orchestra only. So what happens is it is the process of combining discrete set of services into single unit. Okay. So what happens in orchestra, there are different musicians. They do not know to need to know each other. They only need to know one individual, that is a music director. So similarly in the orchestration world, right, whenever we have to do orchestration, what we do is there is an entity called as orchestrator, and that orchestrator has a capability to combine discrete set of services into single unit. Okay. So who is orchestrator? Orchestrator is an entity who has the capability to combine different things together. I'll give you an example. Okay, let's say somebody tells me the details to track the order. Yeah. So what happens is when you track the order, typically you will give order ID. Yes, let's assume my website has a order ID. So now when you get order ID, so what you might do is internally you might fetch order details. You might also fetch customer details, right? Okay, you might also fetch, when I say customer details, it might be the customer name, it might be the address, right, where you want to deliver that order, might be the phone number. So it might happen when this call comes to your integration layer. Going forward, I will keep it as Boomi, right? So there is order ID which is coming from the website, it is coming to Boomi. Now Boomi is passing it on to some external third parties. Okay, maybe let's say this data is stored in some database table. This data is stored in some database table. Now when I want to return this information back to the website will not feel that these were two different calls. What we will do from the integration layer is we will make one call, we will store that data in some variable, we will make another call, we will enrich the data, right? So whatever data, let's say I got some order details is having the order number, order amount, the date, the items which were part of that order, and then I also need the customer details, because when I want to pass on the information back, I want to give the customer name, the shipping address, the billing address, the phone number, the order details. So internally what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make two different calls to fetch these two informations. I will combine them together and I will present them these things as a single unit, right? So orchestration is the process of combining discrete set of services into single unit such that the end system feels that it was always a single thing which was returned as a response, right? But behind the scenes there are two different calls which are happening to achieve it, right? Any questions guys from anyone so far? All right, so what we'll do is now we'll jump onto the Boomi platform and we'll just start exploring few things around Boomi platform, the look and feel of the Boomi platform, what are the different things which we need to take care of, all that stuff, right? So now what happens is I go here, I'm already into my Boomi platform, right? So you will be receiving credentials from me. Okay, so I mean after today's session, only people who will be going forward, right? There are some people who have already subscribed, there are some people who are still deciding. After today's session, only the people who have subscribed are going to receive any kind of notification from me, and other people will need to maybe think about it. So you will receive this Boomi credentials from me. Some of you might have already received, right? So you will log in here. As I told you, there are different services, and we will be primarily focusing on integration and API management. So first we will land into the integration services, and within integration we can do three things, right? We can do build, we can do deploy, we can do manage, right? So first of all, we have to acclimatize with the look and feel of the Boomi platform, right? So what you have to understand is on the left, whatever you see, right, this is called as a component explorer. Okay, on the left hand side, this left pane where this is written filter, there is a search window, there are some folders, there is at the bottom there is an option called as browse process library. This left pane is called as a component explorer. So it is a section from where you can explore different components, right? The right pane, right, when you land, it has different segregations. So this section, open a recent item, allows you to open what were the recent items. So there can be recent items falling in the different categories. There can be recent processes you developed, there can be recent APIs, there can be some recent components, right? And after that, other section is create. So there is a shortcut to create some process. Right now you might ask me, what is a process? I don't understand, which is a very valid question. Okay, we will understand it gradually. Then there are some shortcuts. So basically this window, this welcome page gives you a shortcuts for different things to keep it simple, right? Left side is your component explorer, and it is important for you to know all those things. Let's say you start working on any real-time engagement. Many of us, what happens is we keep, let's say, 1 or 2 years experience fake, right? So what happens is you're working on screen sharing with someone and he's telling you go to the component explorer, but you don't know what is component explorer, right? So that basically, very clearly tells to the people that you have not worked in real time. These are very, very small things, but it is very important to understand. So this is my component explorer. Here I have an option to see my dashboard. So there are three types of dashboards: account dashboard, HTTP stat dashboard, and I have got real-time dashboard. Okay, this is my account dashboard, which will give me the summary for the whole account, right? So this is going to give me the some matrices, right? That how many atoms I know many of you don't understand what is atom, what is the but overall throughput, right? So these will help me to decide performance, how many executions are failing, right? All that stuff. So this is my like HTTP dashboard, right, which will give me more details about HTTP based services. And then there is some real-time dashboard which is more about APIs, but we'll discuss all these things. But for now you have to understand the options we have. Then we have a build tab. So by default, when you're logging into the integration services, right? Right now we are by default on the build tab only. Okay. So when you click on the build tab, nothing gets changed. And the reason why it is not happening so, because when you're landing into the integration services, by default, you're onto the build tab. Okay. Again, when you go to deploy, there is a drop down. There are three different options: packaged components, deployments, and integration packs. Okay, integration pack is a advanced level topic. Then there is manage. Again, in the manage, there is process reporting, there is atom management, there is Boomi Assure, there is process library, there is trading partner management. You don't need to mug up anything. Nobody will ask you that what are the different options we have in the manage. Okay, what can be a question for you in the interview is, some people who are going with 1 or 2 years experience, so when an interviewer wants to check that whether you have a real-time experience or not, they will ask you, if I want to get into the process reporting, right, what will be my navigation? So then you should know that process reporting falls under the manage option, right? And that you will only know once you practice, right? If you will do theoretical things, there are 50-50 chances that you may remember these small things or you may not remember all these small things, but we will cover all of these. So once we understand this, then here you will see this kind of message which will give you some important notification. So it is telling me that your account will expire in 57 days. There is some release control. So what happens is Boomi comes up with some release every month, right? And it will tell you as a part of this release what are the offerings we are giving, and you can apply. So they will give you an option that either you can apply that release to your current platform yourself, or when, so they will give you some grace period to apply release. If you do not apply that release, that will get automatically applied once that grace period expires. So you can see all those notifications over here. Then you have a help tab, this drop down. So here this help helps you to go to the documentation. It will help you to go to the support, right? If you want to raise a case, let's say you're working for a company where some issue is coming and it is not working. So what you might want to do is you might want to go and raise a ticket to the support. There is a community, right? Dell Boomi community, where there are different Dell Boomi experts. You can go and post your question over there. You can run some threads. Then there is a Boomi training, right? So these are the 4 different options from the help. Then there is setting, right? In the setting, you have a user information, you have account information. So when you go to the account information, so there are a lot of things: my user information, my email alerts, authentication. There are so many options you will get, and many of the options are used, when we start working, we'll see there are many of the options which we'll visit over here, right? So for now, we'll start with the build tab, right? I think one thing which should be very clear in our mind is that whenever we are talking about iPaaS, we must be able to build, deploy, manage from the single platform. So we did not do any installation so far, but we will be able to start with some sort of integrations. Now, having said this, I will contradict my statement in some time or maybe tomorrow, wherein you might need to do some installation. Okay, so when companies say that we are completely code free, they will say like that, but the truth is that they will not be completely code free. Some amount of coding will be required. The only thing is the coding might be very minimal, right? Similarly, when we say iPaaS, we don't need any installation, they are right, but they are right for some of the use cases, right? But for there might be some other use cases where we might need some minor installations. Okay, but the effort on installation will be very minimal, right? Can anybody tell me, based on the fact where my end systems are hosted, what are the different types of integrations we come across? I will repeat, my
Various.
question is, based on the fact where my end system is hosted or my source or target application is hosted, what are the different integration types we can come across? Yeah, I think someone was answering.
Yeah, types in the sense you are on the direct basis, means cross integration, or the basis. This question is not that much clear. Means
Okay, so let's say there's an application, right, which is on-prem. there is another application is on cloud. So what are the different possibilities? What are the different permutation combination can I have from the, if I have to classify that as a use case, right? So I will either classify it as it is a use case of complete on-prem integration, right? Or if one application is on cloud, another is on-prem, I will classify that as a hybrid integration use case, right? If there is another use case wherein my source is on cloud and target is also on cloud, I will classify that as a cloud integration use case. So, and how do I take that call? I take that call based on the fact where my end system is running, right? If the my end system is behind corporate firewall, that is an on-prem application for me. So the point I'm trying to make is that you might not need any kind of installation for cloud-based integrations. Okay, but if you want to do integration with any application which is on-prem, there might be a need, or there would be a need of some minor installations in Boomi. So when you go to Boomi or when you say iPaaS, ideally you might not need any kind of installation, right? But that statement is 100% valid only for cloud integrations, right? Whenever you have any integration that involves even a single on-prem application, you might need to do an installation. Okay, what is that installation? What exactly do you need to install? I'll talk about that. What is IDE?
Integrated Development Enterprise.
It is integrated development environment, which helps you to basically speed up your integrations, where you can go and design or do where you typically do the developments, right? uh, it will have some intelligence like Eclipse, right? Like NetBeans, like JDeveloper, right? So now for Boomi, this current window where we are, right, this is the IDE. You don't have any separate IDE. So if anyone is, let's say, working on MuleSoft, right, there will be an IDE called as Anypoint Studio. Okay, or even they also have something similar which they call it as a flow, though it is not so mature. But the point I'm trying to make is we do not have any separate IDE over here. Okay, whatever IDE we have, that is this Boomi platform only. This build tab is your IDE, right? Another important thing is when you talk about this component explorer, right, there is a root folder, right, which you can see with the name Sumit. Yeah, so you can rename it. You can go here and you can rename it. This is one certification question where they will ask you, can we rename any of the folders we want? Okay, answer is yes. So here, let's say I want to rename it, I can change it to, let's say, training by Sumit. Yeah, so this is the root folder, and whatever you do, whatever you develop, whatever you design, that has to be part of this root folder only. Okay, so let's say I go here and I create a new folder, right? And I will say this as, let's say, April 2021 batch. Now when you create this kind of folder, let's say it was not April, right, it was, let's say, November. I'm just giving you an example, and these are small tweak things, but I want you to know this is November 2020 batch. So what will happen is somewhere, maybe I have too many folders, somewhere here this folder got created, right now. Whenever I'm doing training, right, whenever I have to show you something, I'll have to go here all the way to that November, and then I can basically make sure, where is that November. Okay, it's here, right? So what I will do is anything which we do, anything which we talk, right, throughout this training for next 25 30 hours or 35 hours, right, we will do within this, right? So this is like your, in your, if you're using Windows machine, you will have C drive, you will have D drive, you will have E drive, and within C drive you will create a lot of folders to manage things effectively. In D drive you will create again subfolders. So it is very much similar to like that, right? So this is my root folder, training by Sumit. Within training by Sumit, there are so many subfolders, right? So let's say for every batch of mine, I can create a subfolder. When you're working for a company, there can be a subfolder for a different business unit. There can be a different subfolder for a different applications, right? That depends on the kind of customer you're working for. But now the point I'm trying to make is I don't want to come all the way here, right? I would want that if the folders could get, so these are not folders. So it is like I created some components directly in the parent folder, which is not recommended. Okay. Ideally, you should not create any component in the parent folder. Make it as a note. You should always have some subfolders inside the parent folders, and whatever components you create, those should reside within those subfolders. For example, in this case, I have created some components directly in the parent, which is not the right way, or which is not the recommended way. This is not recommended, right? What is the recommendation? Within root, you create some subfolders, and within those subfolders only you should create your components. So if I go here, I go and say new folder. Okay. So I will say hash, right? Let's say I would say hash Dell Boomi, or I would say hash, or let's say Dell Boomi April 2021 batch, something like this. Okay. I click save. Can you see? I can see because of this hash, my folder I can see on the top itself. So when you start working in real time, right, you might see that in your company, let's say you already got into a project which was already there, right? You replace some team member, you might see that some of the folders start with the name hash. This is the convention you will see in the industry. Why they have done so is because they feel that this is a folder which will be accessed very, very frequently, right? And when something you want to access very frequently, you might want to keep on the top, right? See, if I want to access something frequently, I would want to see on the top, right? I would not want to go all the way down and check it. Okay, this is a very, very small thing, but important to know, right? So you can name your folder this way. So now this is my folder. Now within this, let's say I if I have an option to rename, yes. I have an option to copy. I have an option to delete, and there is one more very, very important option, new component. So now there is a parent folder, training by Sumit. Everything is within this folder only, right? This is like your code repository, you can say, where your whole code is there, right? Or this is also called as component explorer, where you can see all the components. When you go here, within this you have Dell Boomi April 2020 batch. This is kind of your subfolder, and within this you can create a new folder, and let's say that new folder is, okay, within that you can create a folder. Let's say first integration which I want to do is, let's say, file to db integration. Okay, I'm just giving an example. We might not do that, or we may do that, but I'm just giving. So file to db integration, in when you're working for any customer, right, you may not name it as a file. That might be some application for you, right? So let's say I would say hrms to data warehouse integration. Okay, now when you are saying hrms to data warehouse integration, you have to always ask a very, very important question to the business. What exactly do you want to integrate? I mean, what kind of data you will have? When I say what kind of data, means which business entity is going to be exchanged between two parties. Is that order? Is that customer? Is that invoices? Is that items data? What exactly is that, right? So for example, I will say hrms to data warehouse integration, and within that, let's say I create first of all this one. Okay, where is that? So if you see this one, we have some subfolder HRMS to data warehouse integration. There is Dell Boomi April 2021 batch, HRMS to data warehouse integration. Now let's say here I may have one more folder. Okay, it is not necessary that you create so many subfolders. So if you feel that there are too many folders and it is confusing you, you can create only one subfolder, and then you can start working in that. So now let's say I will say employee integration. Okay, maybe something like this. So when I'm talking about the HRMS, okay, there will be details about the employees, right? Now, so these all are the different subfolders which I can create. Now this folder is fine, that's okay. But the next important thing is that whenever you want to start your integration, you need to create some components. Okay, so what is component? So you have to understand, whenever we want to start building any integration in Boomi, we need to start creating some of the readily. So it's not that we do not create component, to be very honest, we start configuring the components, configuring some of the readily available components. So we are not designing components. Components are readily available. We are just going to use them. Understand this, whenever we want to start building any integration, we need to start configuring some of the readily available components. Let's go back. So when I go here, can you see there is an option, there is any option to create component? Yes, right? When I click here, there is an option to create a new component. Yes. So by default, it is pointing to which component? So if you see, there is a window which says create component. There are three subsections: type, component name, and folder. So what does that mean? That means there are different types of components which we can create. So what are some of the names? You have process component, you have API component, you have flow service component, and there are many. You have close to 15 to 20 different types of components, right? Now you are a beginner, you might have a question that which component do I start with, right? So what is component? Components are some reusable entities which are required to develop or design any integration, right? Now there are many different components which are available in Boomi. Which is the first component that should be chosen by me, or that should be created by me to start my integration? The first component which you should always choose to start your integration in Boomi is the process component. So what I'm saying is components are reusable entities which are required to develop integration. Okay. Now, when I say reusable entities, you have to understand what does it mean. One component can be reused across different integration implementations. So if you are doing multiple integrations, then you can use the same component. That's why it is called as a reusable entity. And in Boomi, there are different components, right? So what is the first component you have seen? There is a process component, right? You will see there are some more components like profile, like flow, like API service. Okay, you don't need to remember all these. Gradually, this will stick to your mind as we use it, right? There are many. There is connector or connection rather. Okay, there is operation. So these are different types of components we have. But out of all these components, right, the one component which is must to have in any integration implementation is the process component. Process is the core component which can orchestrate all other components. We cannot, here is an important note, we cannot build any integration in Boomi without a process component. So you must have a process component to build any integration in Boomi, right? So when I go here, so what I'll do is, so whenever we start any integration, right, what we'll do is we'll say process employ sync from, let's say, HRMS Okay, I have written HRMS, but in real time you might have that name. Okay, or let's say I will write from workday to data warehouse. So there are different conventions. So generally, whenever you are starting a process, it is recommended to write a process, keep a space, pipe space. Again, there might be different companies who might say, no, I don't want pipe, I want like hyphen. It's your choice because different companies will have different naming conventions. I'm just showing you the one of the possible naming conventions. Okay, I can give you one document around that. So generally, whenever you're starting any component, right, it is a good practice to basically prepend that component type and then the component name, so that it is easier for you to understand that this is a process component. I will click on create. Okay, so when I click on create, there is some again pop-up coming, and for now I will say okay, and I'll say save. So you have to understand, but the moment I hit save, we'll go back here. So this is the root folder which we started with, Dell Boomi April 2021 batch, right? I expand that. So when I expand, I am getting HRMS to data warehouse integration. Within that, there is employee integration, and within that, there is a component. And which type of component is this? Process. And within that, you will see there is a process. The process name is process underscore employee sync from workday to data warehouse, something like this. Now you feel the name is too long, right? Or maybe you don't want employee, you want employees. Just change here and hit, and you will say save. So when you will say save, this gets refreshed. So it is not coming right now. It will come. Okay, let me see, save and close. Okay, and can you see now it is not employee anymore? It is employees. Okay, so I am feeling this. I don't want these all from and all. So you can always rename these things from here is what I'm trying to say. So I just want to keep it simple, workday to data warehouse, that's all. Or data warehouse, I don't want to write too big, right? I want to write DW, that's all. You can always do that, right? So this is your process. What is process? Process is a component, and it is the core component in Boomi. Without this component, you cannot develop any integration, right? Now what you can do is within this you see a new screen. So this is called as a process canvas. Okay, this is called as a process canvas. Now within this process canvas, you can design your complete or you can model your complete integration, or you can develop your whole integration over here. So this is the canvas where we will drag and drop different components. We will configure them to achieve our integration. So far we have not written any coding, right? So what we'll do is we'll just get the stuff, we'll drag and drop over here, we'll configure it, and we'll take it forward from here. Any questions, guys, so far? Any navigation which you don't understand? Because in Boomi there'll be a lot of navigations, so that's why I'm going a little slow. Because if I will just do taka taka, I mean I'll just quickly go, you might not get it, right? Which I don't want. I mean, you should be able to observe each and every option properly, and when you go back and if you want to repeat these things, you should be able to do it, is the whole intent. Any questions from anyone? So now once we have a process from here, we'll take it forward. So now let me ask you this. uh do you want to do do you guys want to do a session on Sunday?
I am okay. Veer.
Okay, on Sunday, I'll tell you the time also right away. Let's say if we want to do a session somewhere between 10, I mean Sunday people generally want to start their day a little late, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. 2-hour session on Sunday.
Yeah, fine, Sumit.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
let me ask one by one very quickly from everyone, okay, so that I get to hear everyone's voice also. Arikula Sai Kumar, is that fine for you, or it will not work out for you to have a session on Sunday?
Yeah, fine.
Is it fine, sir?
All right. Manjot, what about you?
Yeah, it's fine for me as well.
Okay, but I think it may not be fine for Priyanka. It might be too late for Priyanka. What about you?
I'm just thinking of that only. It will be Saturday night for us, so that's why It's 9. It will be 9:30 p.m. to 11:30 for me.
Okay. Okay. So, guys, are you more comfortable having a session on morning for Sunday or late evening, like somewhere like 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m.?
Morning is also fine.
So
Morning
morning,
only, sir.
morning. Okay.
Morning.
All right. Ramya, what about you? You are from a different time zone, I believe,
I'm
right?
okay with it. Yeah. Morning is good for me.
Does 10 a.m. Or let's say we stick to whatever we are following, right? Right now, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Does that work for you, Ramya?
Yeah, it's
9 a.m.
fine.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, for
Rakesh.
me also it's fine.
All right. Rakesh.
Yeah, okay, sir. Morning.
Okay. Sai Kumar.
Yeah, okay, sir. Morning.
Shravani. 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Only on Sunday, no session on Saturday.
Okay.
Okay,
Srinivas.
sir.
There are so many okays coming. Okay. So is there anyone who cannot do it on Sunday 9 to 11? All right. So in that case, what I'm going to do is, guys, I think like I generally give 1 or 2 demo sessions, right? So for me, like this is kind of a last session where you have to take a call whether you want to continue or not.